Hi, everyone. Welcome to the financial aid session. So in a moment, we're going to be bringing in Jen, who's a financial aid officer here at Georgian. So please feel free to put your questions into the chat box at any time during the presentation, and we'll get through as many as we can today. So Jen, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Jenny. Hi, everyone. So I'm just going to share my presentation with you all. Just one moment. There we go. Can everyone see that okay?
Yeah, we can see that.
Perfect. Okay, so let's begin. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us this morning as we discuss financial aid and awards. We all know that post-secondary education is clearly an investment in your future, and it can be tough to make ends meet. So this is why we offer so many options to help you pay your way to graduation. The Financial Aid and Awards Office is your one-stop shop to access the financial support you need. We assist new students who are applying for OSAP and advise current and registered students applying for awards, scholarships, bursaries, or who are experiencing a financial emergency and need immediate assistance. So what types of funding are available? Today we're going to discuss OSAP, the Ontario Student Assistance Program, bursaries, awards, and scholarships. And student line of credit is another funding option that students can explore to help finance their studies. So what is OSAP? OSAP is the Ontario Student Assistance Program. It's a financial aid program that can help you pay for college or university. It's a blended program that offers grants, which is money you don't have to pay back, and loans, which is money you do have to repay once you've completed your schooling. The great thing is you just fill out one OSAP application and this assesses you for both grants and loan funding. As a student, you do have the option to accept grants only. You don't have to accept the loans if you choose not to. OSAP is based on financial need, not grades. It is an entitlement program, so no cap is set on the number of students who can qualify for funding. Eligibility is determined based on student need assessments. So how do you apply? So you simply just go to osap.ca. First-time students need to register. You'll be provided with an OSAP access number. This is your OAN. It's really important to write this down, make sure you have it in a safe spot. You're going to need that OAN number every time you log into your OSAP account. The login isn't by email, it's always going to be using your OAN. The 2021-22 OSAP application typically opens in the spring. There's no set date provided by the ministry. However, you can register and obtain your OAN at any time. Once you've done this and verified your email address, the ministry will send out an email notifying you when the application has opened. So that's a great tip as well. And if you're planning on starting school this coming January, the 2020-21 application is open right now. We encourage students to apply for OSAP as soon as you're able to. This allows for sufficient time for the financial aid team to process any of your supporting documents for your OSAP application and to ensure that your OSAP funding is issued to you at the start of your semester. So if you're curious, how much OSAP funding could I receive? The ministry offers a great tool. It's the Osap Aid Estimator. So you visit osap.ca again and use this estimator. The estimator tool essentially provides you with a very basic estimate based on your situation. Are you a dependent student who will live away from home during your studies? Are you going to be registering in a diploma or degree program? Are you an independent student? Just remember that this is a simple estimate and is not an official funding assessment. Next, we're going to discuss awards and scholarships and bursaries. So we support students with over $3 million in bursaries and over $750,000 in donor-funded student awards and scholarships. What is an award? So an award is a gift or sum of money presented to students in recognition of their accomplishments, or situational needs. What is a scholarship? A scholarship is a gift or sum of money presented to a student primarily on academic achievement, but sometimes other criteria could apply as well. The average value of our awards and scholarships is $1,000. Recipients can be selected based on community involvement, involvement in the Georgian community, academic achievements, financial need, or sports and athletics. We offer awards and scholarships for all students, direct from high school, mature students returning for a second career or continuing their education, awards for students in their first, second, third, and fourth year, depending on the length of your program, full-time and part-time students, and domestic and international students as well. So bursaries, what is a bursary? So a bursary is a non-repayable sum of money as well, but it's strictly based on financial need. And the minimum value of our bursaries is $500. So how do you apply for all these great opportunities we have available? Well, we recently launched a new online application system to connect students to all of the awards, scholarships, and bursaries that Georgian has to offer. You do have to be a registered student to apply, so either pay your deposit, reserve your seat, or registered in courses. We have 3 cycles each year, fall, winter, and summer. For students that plan on attending Georgian next fall, so in 2021, you can access the application system as early as August 15th, 2021. If you're as a non-registered student, you can still search for the opportunities we have available to offer. So simply visit our webpage, GeorgianCollege.ca /awards to access the link to the application system, and then you can do a search there. The majority of the opportunities available are auto-matched through the general application. So this is great because this means that you only have to complete one application to be matched to over $3.7 million in awards, scholarships, and bursaries that we have to offer. We really encourage you to take your time when completing your application, be detailed in the responses you provide, check your budget and calculations, read your questions thoroughly, and ensure you provide the information requested. The more information and detail you provide increases how many opportunities you'll be matched to. We have a great tutorial video available on our webpage that demonstrates the application process, so I really encourage everyone to check that out too. And many students ask us, is it even worth my time to bother applying? Yes, absolutely. This is free money that you can get to help you, pay your way through your schooling. The amount of time and effort you put towards your application is really up to you. But as I mentioned, the more detailed information you provide, the more opportunities that you'll be matched to. So if you have any questions, we'll be answering some of those in the chat. But if, anything pops up later in the day, you're welcome to reach out to us by email. So FinancialAid at GeorgianCollege.ca, or please visit our website at GeorgianCollege.ca /awards, where, like I said, you can see the tutorial. There's more information about OSAP as well.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for your presentation, Jen. That was great. So now we're going to move into our Q&A session. I see we've got some questions coming in, so that's wonderful. We have a question here from John, who's saying, does financial aid apply only to full-time students, or do part-time students qualify as well?
Yeah, no, so part-time students qualify as well. So OSAP offers, for OSAP specifically, students can apply through a full-time OSAP application if you're in a minimum 60% of a full-time course load, or you can apply for part-time OSAP with a minimum 20% of a full-time course load. So your course load really depends on what program you're in. If you have any questions about what that means for you, then you can connect with us one-on-one and we can answer that question for you more specifically. And the same goes for the awards and scholarships. They're available for full-time and part-time students as well. That's a great question.
Okay, awesome. And there's another question as well about saying, are international students eligible for scholarships and awards?
Yes, yep, we do have quite a number of awards and scholarships for our international students. So like I said, we have awards and scholarships really for everyone, full-time, part-time, domestic, international, mature students, students coming direct from high school. So as long as you're a registered student at Georgian, you should definitely be taking that opportunity to apply for all of that free money we have available.
Mm-hmm. There's another question here from Farhan, really a sign of the times. Since so many of us are studying remotely, they're wondering, can I be eligible for a scholarship if I'm not in Canada but I'm studying remotely?
Yes, you can. You can definitely still apply and receive a scholarship. The disbursement process looks a little bit different for that situation, but that's not something, we really want students to be overly concerned about. We've definitely figured out the ways that we can ensure that students who are selected as recipients do receive their funding. So yes, you can definitely still apply.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I mean, and there's another question here about from a mature student. They said, I am coming back for a second career. Will I qualify?
Yes, definitely. Even if you're receiving funding through the second career program with the government, you can still apply. We just always encourage students, if you are getting second career funding and you do get selected to receive an award or scholarship, just make sure you let your caseworker know that's been helping you through your application process, because sometimes it can change your second career funding, your entitlement. So we just, encourage students to look into that and be aware, but you can still apply.
Okay, great. And there's a great question here from Brooke as well. We want to get the funding, but how long does that take to pay it off? So she's wondering, how long do I have to pay off student loans after college?
Yeah, so for your any OSAP loans, while you remain a full-time student, your loan remains interest-free. And then the government, once you've either completed your program or you're no longer full-time, the government does provide students with a 6-month grace period. So in this grace period, your loan does start earning interest, but you aren't required to repay. And the purpose of this is so that you can, find full-time employment and start working. So at that point, you do have to start repaying your loan, and then they determine what your minimum payments are.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and you can find more information if you go to the National Student Loans website as well.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so we're talking about all these wonderful scholarships and awards and everything. We do have a question from someone who's wondering where they can apply. So where would they go to actually do the application process?
So for OSAP, it's just osap.ca, or if you just simply Google OSAP, the ministry website will populate. For awards and scholarships and bursaries, you just go to GeorgianCollege.ca/awards. And then within there, you can link to the OSAP website as well. It will link you to our external online application site for awards and scholarships. There's a lot of great FAQs around awards and OSAP. As I mentioned in the presentation, the tutorial video that shows you how to apply for awards and scholarships is posted. So, we really encourage students to take a look while you have the time now. Poke around our website, see what information we have available. And then if any questions spark at that point, then connect with us at any time.
Okay, great. That seems like a great transition into some of these OSAP questions that we're getting. So we have a few questions that are just wondering about when they should apply for OSAP. For instance, we have one question that's mentioning they are going to apply for fall 2021.
Okay.
So when should people keep an eye out for that, for applying?
Yeah, so the OSAP applications for a new academic year, so that fall 2021 would be considered the 2021-22 academic year. Those applications will open, usually it's around spring when the ministry releases them. They never provide an actual date, but what you can do is if you've never registered or logged in and created an OSAP account, you can do that now. You'll be provided with your OSAP access number. Keep it in a really safe spot because you'll need that every time you log in. And then once you've verified your email, the ministry will actually send you communications. So you'll get an email notification from the ministry once the OSAP application has opened. So that's a great tool as well because then you don't have to keep checking back. As soon as it's available. We encourage students to apply as soon as they are able to. This allows for sufficient processing time for supporting documents. It allows sufficient time for you to ask any questions if you're unsure about any aspect of the application. And then it makes sure that your funding is provided to you in time of your program, like your semester starting. So as soon as possible is what we always tell students.
Okay, awesome. And you touched on it there. I do want to, we have a question here that's asking, where do we get that OSAP number? So it would be the start of that process then?
Like in terms of how much funding you could receive? Or the OSAP access
That's a good
number.
question. They just said, where do we get our OSAP number?
Okay, well, I'll explain both. So the OSAP access number is generated once you register. So you just go to osap.ca. And there's a register button right when you land on their page. And then you'll just fill in a series, you'll answer a series of questions, and then you're provided with your OSAP access number, and you create your own password just like you would for any other account. And then we might as well hop into funding. So if anyone's curious about, how much OSAP can I get? There's a great aid estimator tool on the ministry website. It's extremely basic, so please keep that in mind. It just provides you with a general idea of how much loan or grant funding you could potentially be eligible for, but it's something fun to look at and poke around and take a peek right now.
Okay, perfect. Let's see here. We have so many OSAP questions. This is great. So there's a question from Never D who's asking, what makes you eligible to apply for OSAP?
Yeah, so for OSAP, it is a government funding, so it's government loans and grants. So you do have to be a permanent resident of Ontario in order to be eligible to apply. And really, that's it. And demonstrate financial need is what the OSAP assessment is based on. So when you complete the application, you're providing income information if you're a dependent student. So that means in OSAP definition, you haven't been out of high school for 6 years yet, or you haven't worked full-time for 2 full years in a row. You're considered a dependent. You have to provide parental income information as well, as that is taken into consideration when determining how much funding you can receive. If if you have children, or if you're married or in a common law relationship, then that just determines what information you provide on your application. Yeah, but the base is you have to be a permanent resident of Ontario.
And we do have some questions related to parents as well with the OSAP process. So is funding based, this is another question here, is funding based on a parent's wage, or what is the cutoff with that?
Yeah, so the assessment for dependent students does take into consideration what parental income is. There's different thresholds. So again, if you try out that Osap Aid Estimator, and for dependent students, it will ask what parental income is, and it will give you an estimate based on what the income is. And then it takes into consideration what your family size as well. Do you have other children in post-secondary studies or not? Do you have other children in your household, other dependents? Are you a single parent family? So it does take that as a factor, but then it looks at your family situation as a whole as well.
Okay, great. And we have another question here. Has OSAP been changed now? I remember that part of the loan was forgivable a couple of years ago. Can you speak to that?
So with OSAP, once you get into repayment, there are repayment assistance programs available through National Student Loan Service Center. So that's for students who are facing, financial hardships or in difficult times. So that's something that's on really like a case-by-case need, and it's all through National Student Loan. So that's not something that would be assessed by the college. That's reviewed once you've completed and you're in the repayment process. So you could always visit the National Student Loans website for more information about that, but essentially that's how that works. You would apply for that if you felt you didn't have the means to begin repaying your loan, and then just to see if you're eligible.
Okay, great. And we have got a question here as well, wondering, are international students available for OSAP?
Unfortunately not. OSAP is a government program, so you do have to be a permanent resident of Ontario.
Okay. And maybe we can reiterate as well, someone was asking, what was that website to see how much we can get?
Yeah, so osap.ca, or just Google OSAP. If you can't remember, if you simply Google OSAP, it will take you right to the ministry website, and the Osap Aid Estimator is pretty visible once you hit the main landing page there.
Okay, great. So we've got another question here. So I am 22 and still living at home. Will that change how much or if I get OSAP because I'm an adult but living with my parents? And I know they can or sometimes look at how much your parents make.
So if you're an independent student, so let's see, you're 21 or 22, did they say?
22.
22. So typically you complete high school when you're 18, 19, 20, 20. So you would still be considered a dependent student depending on your full situation. So to be independent, you have to be out of high school for at least 6 years, or you have to have worked 2 years consecutively as a full-time employee. If you don't meet that criteria, you're considered a dependent student and you would have to provide parental information. If you did meet that criteria, then on the application it asks if you live with your parents or not, and then it's just a matter of answering the questions. So, you know, students don't have to be concerned about identifying their own status. It's questions provided in the application that direct what status they are. But okay. It's a good question and one we get quite frequently. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have students of all ages and
exactly,
levels. So
yeah,
we've got a couple of questions here, sort of related to COVID-19 and how that can affect the whole application process. I'm going to kind of jam in a couple of questions here. There's will the COVID situation affect the OSAP process and time to process? As well, there is another question about would it affect the repayment sort of process?
Okay, so in terms of the actual process itself, we have all been able to work remotely and provide our support and service to our students pretty seamlessly, to be honest, even though we're at home, because everything is really virtual now anyways. And with OSAP, you apply online. You have the ability to upload your supporting documents electronically directly to your OSAP application. And even if you did, you didn't have access to do that or it wasn't working, you can still mail information, and we do receive that. But no, like our process is still moving along seamlessly. We do encourage students, like I said, to apply as early as you're able to, because regardless, our processing times during high volume can take, 4 to 6 weeks anyhow. And the second part of the question about repayment, really, if the government did provide interest relief when we started the pandemic for students who were in the repayment process, but that's not something we can really foresee or speak to right now. That's essentially up to what the government chooses to do.
Okay, yeah, great. And we have one little quick question on OSAP. Can you apply to OSAP while on ODSP?
You can, yes. When you're completing your OSAP application, it does ask you if you receive any form of government income, and then it will provide you with options. So ODSP is one of those options. So essentially how that works is you can still be assessed for OSAP funding for your tuition costs, but not living costs, because your living costs are covered through ODSP. But you can still receive OSAP funding for sure. Just make sure you note it and claim it on your application, because the two systems will figure it out eventually if you forget or make an error. So.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. So this session is coming to an end. So thank you so much to Jen and to everyone who joined us today for this.